Welcome to another great session with Creating Wealth Through Property. Today on board, I have an amazing person. He has been termed as the Human Lie Detector, and his name is Alan Stevens, and he is a 30-year veteran of international profiling communication specialists. He's regularly been featured on the national TV, radio, and in the world press, profiling the likes of leading politicians, TV and sports stars, as well as Britain's royalty. There's got to be a story behind that, I'm sure. So let me bring on board Alan Stevens, and really excited about this one, Alan. So let's talk about it. What have you got to talk to us about today, Alan?
Well, thanks very much for the invitation and that to come along and speak to you, and especially share what I do with your people, because what I do is all about how to build relationships. How do we connect with each other? And because nobody's going to do business with anybody if they don't know, like, and trust them. So how do we connect with somebody, and what's the best way to do that? And that is by building that trust. So what I do is help people to understand just how to do that by looking at the other person and knowing their personality from their photograph or when they see them first time, and then being able to watch their body language and micro expressions to know whether they've read them right and exactly what's going on in the moment.
So you can do this from a picture?
Yep. You do it from a photograph. It doesn't matter. There's a number of traits you can pick up in a newborn child. And as we get older, there are more traits. So it's all about how you like to think and process. Especially as we get older, we have more ridges and crevices, and that's from using the muscles over and over and concentrating. If we really concentrate deeply, we'll pull the muscles in, we'll get lines here, we'll get ridges across the eyes. And it's that history that I'm reading in someone's face.
Well, you're going to get nothing from me. My wife says that I must be having Botox injections on my forehead because my forehead doesn't move.
And a lot of that comes down to how expressive we are and everything else. But as far as the shape of your face, that tells me a great deal. Like, I know that we haven't really started talking yet, but I know you've got a dry sense of humour. So I know a conversation with you is going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, I always like to have a bit of fun, that's for sure. A lot of people don't get me, but whatever. It's all about, as you said, it's about building the relationships. And as we've discussed previously, I actually became a qualified life coach just so that I could understand how people deal with one another, because I was a very shy person and really was terrified of talking with someone one-on-one. So that was a key element to moving me along in my investment side of things. So yes. So what can you get? How can you differ from a good real estate agent to a bad real estate agent? What are the things that we look for?
Well, the first thing I look for is I want to make connection with somebody. So I'm going to be looking at how much space they require when I first walk up to them, how comfortable they are. I then look at what is the face telling me about how they like to think and process. And then I look at the behaviour, how they talk. Now, there'll be times when, well, think about it. And this is a question for all your listeners as well. You're listening to somebody and everything sounds perfectly fine, but you get that gut feeling something's just not right. Well, virtually what's happened is unconsciously, your unconscious mind has picked up all those non-verbal indicators, the things that aren't congruent with the way they're talking. So it could be the expression, it could be the shift in the tone of voice. And unconsciously we pick it up and we make a determination about that person in that moment. What I do is teach people how to read that and know what it is they're actually seeing and hearing, whether they're on track or not.
I guess it's also important how you react to that information as well. I recall a story when I was at university and I was in Business Statistics 3. And I walked in and we were doing actuary stuff, which was life insurance. And I won't say the lecturer's name, but he said to me, "Craig, what's wrong?" And I said, I've got this little red light on my forehead. And I said, every time I'm around, and for the benefit of the audience, I'll say BS. I said, this little red light goes off in my head. And I said, when I come into your subject, I said, it's on full bore. Yeah, to say that I wasn't the best student is probably an understatement.
There you go. And this is one of the things like kids at school, where they connect with their teachers and whether they do well. It depends on the difference in their personalities and the similarities. If the teacher can read the child and speak to their personalities, the child's going to perform better. So and that's where it all starts, down at that level, and then goes right through life.
So as we pick up on these micro expressions and these nuances in people's facial expressions, we're going to then be able to communicate, oh, that got that reaction. Now, if I go more along the other line, I'll get a better reaction from them.
That's it.
And that will help us navigate our way through the negotiations.
Yeah. If you wouldn't mind, and by the way, when I talk about the traits, there's no right trait and there's no wrong trait. Every trait has an upside and every trait has a downside. Could you just take your glasses off for a moment?
Yes, certainly.
And look straight at me. Well, straight away, I know that if I'm presenting to you, you want the big picture. You don't want a lot of waffle. You want to be able to get the big picture, and then you like to ask the questions that you want to ask. So you don't want to waste time.
I want to know the answers.
Yeah, so what you're actually going to, yeah, so you just want to get to it though. If I just kept on talking and went down and with a lot of detail, you're going to drift out. You're going to try and pull me up. You're going to try and get me back on track and get the answers that you want, not just listen to me talking. So if I know that, I know how to present to you before I even go to meet you.
I would say that's very accurate. There is an exception for that, and that is when I'm trying to learn about someone. I will just let them talk and talk and talk, and that way I can reassess my position as to what I'm going to say next. But I'd say that's a very accurate description.
Yeah, but not one trait defines it. So another trait I'm seeing there is that you'll have what I call critical perception. You'll be able to pick up errors in documents very quickly. So if there's spelling errors, misplaced or spacing is out of line and things like that, you'll notice it straight away. So which means then you're going to listen to somebody, take all the information in because you're trying to get a feel for them as well. Where's the accuracy? Where's the incongruencies, etc. So, but once you've made your decision, it's like, just give me the best way to do it, get out of the way and let me get it done.
That would be very true. So, yes.
So I'm looking at about 68 traits in total in the face alone. So there's a lot to be seen there. So you just look for what stands out the most, what stands out second, how do they moderate and work together to be able to build an overall image of that person as they're walking past you in the street. You can do it that fast.
So how can the viewers actually start to pick up on this? How can they actually learn some of these skills and adapt them themselves? What would be the top 3 things that you would give away today that we can actually get out there and start doing this stuff?
Okay, first thing that you will notice when you look at somebody is the width of the face, the closeness of the eyes, and the height of the eyebrows. And if you think about it, somebody who's got very high set eyebrows up here, they look like they want space, and we sort of pull back from it as well. These are people who are more discerning. These are the people that if you walk up and you stand in their space, they will move back away from you. It's not that they're not friendly, it's that they're discerning. They want to come into a room, check out who's safe to be around. Once they've worked that out, they're as friendly as anybody else. So if you want to meet them and to connect with them very quickly, don't walk into their space. Stand back. I generally, if I see someone with high set eyebrows and they're walking towards me, I'll stop before they get to me, put my hand out to shake hands, and allow them to set up the space. And I normally notice that the closer the lower the set the eyebrows, the closer they will stand. So that the person with a high set will stand back. And how do I know I've got rapport? Well, I might lower my voice in the conversation. As I lower my voice, especially if there's other noises around, I'll lean in. I'll look at their body language. Where are their feet facing? Are they nodding? Are they seem to be engaged with the conversation? So I know that I have rapport, but I've also allowed them to have their space. They feel comfortable, because if they're not comfortable, they're not listening to what I'm saying. Then you find you have people who've got very close set eyes. They're very focused. And the way to think of it, it's like the birds of prey. All they look at is what's directly in front of them, because that's where they're going after the game that they're about to catch. Whereas the animals that are more the ones that were the prey itself, their eyes are more towards the side. So they're catching things that are going on there. So the person who's very close set eyed is very focused on what they're doing. And if you're explaining something to them, don't interrupt them. If they look like they're concentrating, allow them more time to get their head around what we're talking about.
Would the more focused person be more challenging to negotiate with and to work with?
They'll be checking everything that's being said, and they'll be focusing in. And especially if they're really concentrating, you'll get the eyebrows pulled together. You'll get that almost like a hunting bird looking at you. You know, like they're really checking you out. And that can be discerning, or disconcerting, I should say, to people who are viewing it. But just remember, if their eyes are close set together, you expect that. If they're not focused in what you're doing, you haven't got rapport with them. You haven't got a connection.
So as always, knowledge is power. The more more knowledge you have about the different ways to approach people and to deal with people, the more power you have in the negotiation.
That's it. And the third one, is I would say, is the width of the face. Those people who have narrow faces, you know, that look like they got long and narrow, they're people who build their confidence by doing things over and over. So when they learn something new for the first time, they'll go away and practice it. If they're telling them about something completely new, they want to think about it to fully understand it first. So if you rush them in a negotiation, you've lost them. Whereas somebody with a very wide face is somebody who has a natural, innate self-confidence. The first time they hear something, they think they've got it. Well, if you're selling to them, for instance, or discussing with them, and you want to make sure they've got it, you've really got to ask them a couple of questions about what you've been talking about to make sure that they've got it. Because they'll just appear to sound like, yeah, I've got that, but you won't know until they're actually put to the test later on. So,
wow. I never would have thought that actual birth physicalities would have influenced people's personality to that degree.
That's right. Well, we're a combination of both nature and nurture. So we have the nature, which are the traits that are passed down in the genes, the width of the face, the spacing of the eyes and things like that. Then we have anything that's to do with the muscles, like the corner of the eyes will start to pull down, or the face will actually get these lines down here, or the corner of the mouth will turn up or turn down. They will be due to our response to our environment. So in other words, as we call them, our nurture traits. So we're a combination of both nature and nurture, things that are inbuilt and things that we respond to in our environment.
I've heard of people looking up and to the left and down and to the right, have it meaning certain things that they're not telling the truth or that they're thinking. Where does that fit with you?
Okay, well, visual, we look up for visual. Anything that's got what it sounds like, we look out to the side. And for how we feel about it and what's going on in our internal thoughts, we look down. One side is to remember and the other side is to construct an answer. So if I ask somebody how many windows in the front of your house and they've got to stop and think about it, they'll look up to get a picture and they'll look to either the left or the right to understand, to remember it. If I then said, okay, say I look in 90% of people will look up and they'll look to their left. So I will look up over to this side. If you ask me how many windows in the front of my house, because I've got to stop and think. Then if you said to me, right, if we took those windows out and we put in a big bay window instead, or big sliding open doors, what would it look like? I'll go to the other side to remember, to actually get an image of it, of what it would look like, so to construct an answer. So it's not so much the direction the person's looking in. I'll get into a conversation with somebody. This is why you'll see it in interrogations with police. They'll connect with somebody. They'll get them in a conversation. They'll watch where their eyes move. So now they've got them benchmarked. 95% or 90% of people look to their left to remember. What does it sound like? Out to the left on a horizontal level. And you ask them a few questions, you benchmark them. You know whether they look left or right to remember. Then you start asking questions where you want some new answers and you watch where they look. And if they're talking about something that they've done before and the first lot of time they looked up to their left and now they're looking to their right, you know that they're making it up.
Wow, so it really is a human lie detector, isn't it?
It is.
When you actually know what you're looking for.
Yeah. You've got to make sure you don't ask a multiple question. In other words, where they've got to go, I've got to look to remember, then I've got to construct an answer. So it's got to be simple questions to actually get that. And where did the person look instantly the first time? You know,
so in the sales process, we often talk about closing gates, as in you'll ask a question and then they will give an answer, you'll close that gate and then you can move on. But you can't really move on until you close that gate. So it's a similar thing to that, just simple, precise questions that allows you to keep moving forward. Would that be correct?
Exactly. And we have actually 3 types of questions. We have open questions, we have closed questions, but we also have probing questions. Now, most people think that the 5 W's and the H, the why, what, when, where's and how's, etc., are open questions. They're not. Your open question is explain, tell, describe. Describe what happened. Tell me who used to live in this house before, or whatever the question might be. The person will tell you what they want to know, but they'll leave big holes. That's when you use the probing questions. Well, that being the case, and that's when you use the why, what, when, where's and how's. And when they narrow it down further, and you've got these little fine bits that I haven't told you anything in that little, that's when you ask the yes or no questions. And that's how you can then fill in and get the full story.
Wow. Just for the viewers of this, rewind this 30 seconds and play that again, because they are true nuggets. And you're going to need to listen to that a couple of times, okay?
Thank you.
So we're going to have to wind up pretty soon, Alan, but I just want to ask you, I believe you've got a new product coming out that's actually in the finance and property arena. Are you able to give us a bit of a brief on that?
You know, one of the things I found was most of my training had been one-on-one and around the world and over the internet, and locally here as well. But I had a lot of people saying to me, Alan, it's difficult to get to be the same time frame as you, or to actually be online when you want me online. So I thought, right, the best way to actually introduce this was to put some pre-recorded courses together and put those online so people could self-pace. So they can go in and do them module by module, do them in their own time, and be able to learn some of the skills. It's a great way for them to get an understanding of, well, do I want to know more about this as well? So when I put those together, just recently they were picked up by the real estate industry for a professional development program for real estate agents. Then it's just been picked up by the MFAA, and the FBAA are now taking it on as a professional development program for the finance brokers. And the chartered accountants have also picked it up as a professional development program. So it's all about how do I build instant rapport with the person I'm talking to be able to go into negotiations and have a profitable outcome.
I find that a bit scary that all these people are doing your training there, Alan, because if they're doing it and we as property investors don't have this knowledge, they're going to have another unfair advantage over us, aren't they?
That's exactly right. So this is the idea here, is to get out and get that advantage yourself. And the good thing about it is, once you've got the advantage in this area by learning that, you're going to use it in every area of life. So you'll use it with your children, with your spouse. You'll improve the relationship that you have with your partner.
Does this mean that she's going to be nice to me and not make jokes about me? Because I can't see that ever happening. It's been happening now for 30 years.
Yeah, well, if you know that, well, I've got some doozies as far as traits go. So when I'm teaching people, I laugh about my downsides of those traits. So I'm not being laughed at anymore. I'm being laughed with. So anything that anybody wants to throw at me, it's water off a duck's back, because I know it's my trait. I'm happy with that, and I know that it has an upside as well as a downside. So I use the upside for the benefits, and I'm recognising the downside so that I control my environment. It doesn't control me.
Oh, brilliant. So on that, just before this, I believe that you've got a special offer for us as well, for our viewers.
That's right. Well, one of the things I always like to, because if people have come along to listen to this, they should be rewarded. They're out there trying to improve their financial situation, improve their lives. So on that online course, for the next week or 2 weeks, there's a coupon code they can use to get a 30% discount on that course if they want to try it out.
Excellent. Well, I encourage everyone to go along and look into this further, because this is a skill that if the real estate agents and the mortgage brokers are studying up on, then us as property investors, we really do need to be on top of this, because we always need to be one step ahead of the people in our industry, the people we're negotiating with and we're working with. And I think the skills that you are offering, Alan, are world class, obviously, with the people that you've been dealing with. I believe the UK Guardian said that you're the leading authority in reading faces globally. That's pretty impressive qualifications.
Well,
And for us to have you available here in Australia is extraordinary.
No, it's my pleasure to share, because I wasn't very good at reading faces when I started. I was pretty poor at the whole effort. Once I started learning, I thought everybody needs this skill, so I love to share what I know with other people.
You've gone on to a different subject there, Alan, but I'd love to delve into it just a bit more. Are you saying that you weren't born an expert in this, that what you had to do was to study and to learn and work through it and practice it? Because that's what we do here at Creating Wealth Through Property, is we don't expect people to be experts straight away. Just go through the training, learn the skills and put things into practice. Is that pretty much what you did?
Exactly. If you knew my background with relationships and other things, I was hopeless. So I either had to learn, or otherwise I was going to be in the deep end of the water all the time. Once I learned, I really learned to connect with people and appreciate the gifts that they have. And I see people in a much better light than I ever saw them before, because I can see their upsides, excuse me, I can see their upsides and I can see their downsides. And therefore I can see their potential even greater than most people can see theirs. So I've been really quite fortunate. It was through somebody just mentioned to me one day, Alan, have you ever looked at reading faces? And I've always had the attitude, the most important thing I'll ever learn is the next thing I learn after I think I know everything. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today.
Well, I cannot say thank you enough, Alan. I really appreciate the insights that you've given us. And I know that the Creating Wealth Through Property group is going to benefit greatly from this and your insights. So thank you very, very much. And I would love to have a chat with you at another stage, and we can go into other hidden gems that you've got for us.
Love to. Look forward to it. And thanks for having me here today.
Most welcome.
And good luck to everybody in your investing in the future too.
Good luck. What they've got to do is train, practice.
Exactly.
Program. There is not luck involved with this. It is not going to be easy. It is going to be definite work, study and practice, as I'm sure it is with yours.
And they'll get there for sure.
Thank you, Alan.
You're welcome.
Been a fantastic presentation. Thank you very much, Alan. We all got an enormous amount out of that. Now it's time for you to take the next step. The link below and gain access to some amazing discounts that Alan's put forward, along with Creating Wealth Through Property. Let's keep you moving forward.